Okay, so we're here to talk about the March-April issue of Unlimited. So I'll just get you guys to introduce yourselves, first of all.
I'm Natalie, Olsen, I'm the assistant art director.
I'm Bruyneel, I'm the editor of Unlimited.
Great. So can you tell me a little bit about the cover, what the theme is of the March-April issue, and where the cover idea came from?
Sure. The new issue of Unlimited is the comings and goings issue. And under the title of Brave the New World, which is the title we've gone with the issue itself, we decided to remap the world. It's an idea that I've had for a while that is kind of a reflection of the things that have already happened in terms of globalization, in terms of people's movement, and in terms of the effect of the world's financial crisis on different countries. So what we've decided to do was to make a map that's both scalable and that's connected in different ways. So I'll let Natalie talk a little bit about the design of the map itself.
Well, our first concern was to sort of simplify it and make it more accessible to the readers. So in that, we've basically changed it from a map of the world to like a transit map. So it's on a smaller scale, it's sort of citywide. So countries, instead of being across an ocean, are really only 2 or 3 stops away. And the countries have also been simplified in form, so they're geometric shapes, and there's more emphasis on their overlap and things like that. They don't just border; they actually cross over.
So, what kind of research did you have to do to recreate this map?
I looked at a lot of underground subway maps and rail maps from all over the world. Washington D.C. is a great one. The London one's really famous. And a lot of different ways that designers have redrawn, maps of the world.
Yeah, you'd mentioned that this is a lot of different designers have had their take on the world, redesigning the world. Is that right? So this is Unlimited's take on the Brave New World.
Yeah, the idea of remapping is that it's an academic concept in some ways, and what it means is that maps have within them power structures, and they define kind of the limits of human possibility. And what we wanted to do was to remap to reflect what's happened in the world already, and the most obvious occurrence of that is by putting America off onto an island by itself. And also to predict future movement and to predict interconnectivity that's embedded in globalization. So when it was Natalie's idea, this whole notion of transit maps and transit connections, what that means for us editorially is that the world is dependent upon all the stops working, so that if one country or one transit stop, to follow the metaphor, falls into disrepair, that affects everybody else and all the other transit lines. So it's a concept that we were trying to it's an abstraction of a remapping, but we were trying to use it in a way to suggest things that have already happened and also to predict the future.
So any interesting highlights on the map aside from, you've made the decision to put America off on its own as an island, anything else?
Well, I think the obvious thing would be the twinning of certain maps or certain colors of countries. So for instance, Iraq and America are the same color. I don't think I really need to walk too far down that road to understand, to explain their connections. Russia and China are twinned in colors, is that right? And that suggests kind of emerging powers and also emerging forces in places like energy and finance. And then there are sort of simpler, more basic magazine things that the countries on the cover that have stories, that have people and stories in the magazine are reflected as such. And then Canada is the bold green color, mostly because it's a Canadian magazine. But we've begun to realize that after the fact that Canada is one of the real winners in the financial meltdown, or at least it's the one that's the most indemnified against a huge loss. So we kind of like that idea of pulling out the green too.
Great. And so aside from the transit line idea, you'd mentioned you'd included like a pipeline theme idea. What is that?
Well, the transit lines were drawn along certain lines. They were constructed on certain lines. One of them is the biggest oil producing countries are all on one line, and the biggest oil consumers are all on one line. But what we didn't want to do was make those things written in stone. In other words, it's possible for any new subway stop to be added at any moment. And we didn't want also to enforce upon the readers the notion of this must mean this. That I think that what we're trying to do is suggest more than enforce. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, in any big city, you'd have to transfer 3 or 4 times.
That's right.
Different railroads to different places. So.
Was there any challenges in making it? Like, was it really difficult with the layering or anything interesting there?
It was definitely probably a 3-week-long process, back and forth between editorial and design, tweaking and changing things. Yeah.
How long does it normally take to do a cover? Is that a long amount of time for?
Unlimited hasn't done that many illustrative covers, so it's kind of a first, actually, that was done in-house.
I think that as the editor of the magazine, when you say to the art department, I would like you to redraw the entire world, you expect there to be some drag there. What's astounding or what's amazing is how close the idea in an art edit meeting comes to actually the idea that I had and Natalie added to actually comes out on the paper. So I think that we're all pretty thrilled with the way it looks. And the other thing about it is that it's built to be understood as having borders that are negotiable and negligible. That what we've drawn is not a new canonized map, but a suggestion along the road of other maps. So I think that the world has entered a time of remapping in lots of different ways in terms of political structures, financial structures, people's movements. And so what we've tried to do is sort of say, here's where we think the world is at, this sort of brave new world that we're talking about, and also here's the possibilities of what's to come.
Okay, and I understand that inside the magazine there's a description of the map. What does that involve?
Basically, it's sort of a version of what we've been talking about, except a little bit more cogent because it's written, or who knows, maybe less cogent. But the jumping off point is in the discussion of what remapping actually means, and what remapping means. And I take this from a geographer at Simon Fraser University named R.A. Clapp, who said that remapping dislodges powers, and what it does is it takes away a kind of hegemony that you find in old maps and suggests a new one, or at least suggests a pattern towards a new kind of structure of the world. And as I say in the explanation, like the most controversial, the most provocative move we've made is islanding, is putting America off to an island. Well, we actually don't think that that's something that we're predicting. We think it's something that we're just reflecting what's already happened. And the other thing that's important when you see the map itself is that the borders are overlapping and they're all geometric shapes, so they're sort of built to shrink and grow. And that's also a concept we wanted to put across. So hopefully it's not too hidden.